Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is a movie. Bear with me as I review this movie, and when I say movie, is it even that? This is an instant holiday classic which brings me out of the Christmas spirit. So no way to sugarcoat this. This movie is bad. Do not watch it. Do not waste your time. I'm telling you, I've watched many movies and this one is not at all worth it. I'm gonna try and be positive, so let's think of the redeemable factors. 0. That's the answer I come up with. There's nothing redeemable about this. And the list goes on for why I don't like it. It is so boring. It's not exciting. It has nothing to do with the title. Santa Claus does no conquering of the Martians. He just stupids his way through the movie, and I'm not even joking about that. I will show you some footage from the movie as I go through my review. Without further ado, let's hit the movie. I'll hit the highlights, and you can see for yourself if this is something you want to watch or not. To begin this masterpiece, we get to see 2 Martian children watching the news from Earth. This radio station, Kid TV, tells us that we're going to get a special look into Santa's workshop, which is a first. So the TV guy sends us over to their broadcaster, Henry Anderson, who is live at the North Pole. And this guy is just unprofessional. I'm telling you, you would never see a real-life television broadcaster quite so giggly. So already you can tell something's up with this film when you watch this clip.
Via Telstar, Andy Henderson at the North Pole.
Hi, kids. This is Andy Henderson at the North Pole. Ooh, it's cold up here. From this spot, there's only one direction you can go, and that's south. Living up here is pretty rough. I don't see how Santa stands it. Since we've been here, we've eaten nothing but frozen food. At least that's the way it is by the time we get it. And now, let's take a look-see into Santa's workshop.
This movie has made me rethink many things, one of which isn't the whole thing of Christmas and Santa that you believe in Santa, and it's all about belief, but now I guess we just get to know that Santa Claus is real, and so now that everyone knows it, it's no longer a secret, and Santa's fine with this. He doesn't care about this interview, and so these broadcasters just get to waltz into Santa's workshop, see what he's working on, and Henry Anderson he spots a little Martian toy that was made, and then Santa and him have this conversation about, oh, do you think Martians are out there? Like, it's the kind of stuff you would talk about over lunch, not during a national TV broadcast. And so they kind of talk like they've been friends for years, even though they just met, and the whole scene is pretty off, and Mrs. Claus comes in.
Sonnet, I get those names mixed up, but the kids know their names.
Santa, there you are. We have so much to do, and you stand here dawdling, talking to this visitor.
Mr. Anderson, this is Mrs. Claus. We're on television.
How do you do, Mr. Anderson?
Ma'am.
Now, I want you to go and finish painting those hobby horses. Television? Did you say we're on television? Oh, dear. Oh, why didn't you tell me? Oh, my hair's a mess. Hello there.
This whole scene is kind of awkward and just, what does it add to the film? Nothing. And so that's what you need to get used to with this. So what a great way to start this film. It physically hurts. So on to the next bit. Next, we get to meet one of the main characters of this movie, the leader of the Martians, Kimar. And Kimar's personality is that of dry paint. He's just that bland. So we get to meet Kimar, who goes into his Star Trek-y quarters, and there he finds his Martian servant, Martian slave, Droppo. He finds him asleep. So of course, as you do, you wake him up with the tickle ray, and this is just
Turn up that tickle ray! Stand up!
And so next, Droppo makes maybe the best excuse I have ever heard.
Why are you sleeping during working hours?
I wasn't sleeping, Chief. It's just that I haven't been able to sleep these last few nights. I forgot how. So I was just practicing.
That's just great. I'm gonna totally just use that in everyday life now. This is just...
Sonny, I told you not to eat the cake.
No. Ma, I wasn't eating the cake. I was just practicing eating the cake. You know, I've not eaten in 4 or 5 days, so I just wanted to make sure I can eat.
Whatever.
But he's a fast thinker. What can you say? So then the Martian leader, Kimar, goes to see his children, names which I've forgotten, and they're watching the Earth programs, and he doesn't want that. So they've kind of started to notice nationwide that there's been kind of a deterioration in the spirits of the children, and as we'll find out, it's because they don't get to experience a childhood. So this really important issue is why they need to kidnap Santa Claus, as we'll later find out. So the Martian children watch as Santa Claus is doing his stuff at their workshop, and that's what Kimar comes into, and he tells them, no more Earth programs, we're going to sleep. And so they put like sleeping powder on them, and they fall asleep. And that's one of the best ideas introduced in this movie. It's like melatonin before its time. So next, we get to visit the old wise one who lives out, and they call upon him. Kimar calls upon him, and he appears in a cloud of smoke. So they discuss, Kimar's like, oh, the children, they're suffering, and so they bring this important issue to this leader, and he's like, oh, no, what I thought would happen has happened. They're beginning to feel they've missed out on childhood, and he tells them that he's seen this coming for centuries.
I've seen this coming for centuries.
If he's seen this coming for centuries, why hasn't he made any kind of effort to put a stop to it? I don't know. It's just like he kind of just tells them now, and he didn't present this idea earlier on and say,
hey, I think we're going to have problems down the line with our children. We need to get right on this.
He just lets it wait out, and then when the disaster strikes, that's when he decides to say, you know, I've been seeing this coming in classic Yoda fashion, pretty much. So this movie is just... So our friends, the Martians, are orbiting our Earth in their spacecraft. And they're looking through view screens and they see so many Santas and they're confused by this. And Kimar says, we only need to take one. And Voldar, who they're setting up as the villain of this movie, he thinks this is too much effort over a fat man in a red suit. And so he disagrees with this whole plan, but he's going along with it for now. So next it cuts to a national television broadcast that alerts us of the spacecraft that has been spotted by radar. And so next it transitions into a scene of military guys doing random stuff.
Stay tuned for further bulletins.
So now it transitions back to the Martian ship, and we find out that Droppo has stowawayed on the ship because he thought it would be a cool opportunity to go to Earth. And so that's that scene, pretty much, in a nutshell. And they decide to land. And from here, we get to go to another national television broadcast. And this one alerts us that the Martians turned on their radar deflector shields, and so they can no longer be detected. So that's what the alert is about, that this may be a UFO landing on Earth because of this electronic capability. And from this national television broadcast, it cuts to stock footage of airplanes and U.S. Air Force for a minute long. Do you know where that plot point goes? Yeah, I don't either. It's pretty much nowhere. There's no point to this. It's just like the director said, you know what we're missing from this movie? We're really missing airplanes. And they found the most random place to add in airplanes of our national defense. If you didn't think this movie could get worse, you're so wrong. Next, we get the treat of meeting Billy and Betty Foster, your normal everyday Earth children. And they're camping out in the middle of nowhere, and Betty's listening to the news reports on her little radio, and she's asking Billy, pestering her older brother, if he thinks Martians are real. And she says,
I don't believe they're real. What would a Martian look like?
And he's like,
would you know if one walked up behind you?
and she says,
if one walked up behind me, I'd scream.
That's kind of paraphrasing, not their exact words. And, of course, the three Martians, Voldar, Kimar, and the other guy, who isn't a developed character, they walk up behind the children, point a gun at them, and say, don't be afraid. So I'm just going to backtrack a little, and so Betty, of course, screams when she sees the Martians. And this scream, to me, looks hilariously fake. If you look at it, her mouth kind of closes before the scream is finished, and the audio tape for the scream seems louder than the rest of the clip's audio, and so it just seems fake to me. Maybe it isn't. I may be wrong. But I don't know. So then I want to highlight that the Martians would point a gun at these children and say, don't be afraid.
Who are you?
We're from Mars. Don't be afraid.
In one shot, we get to see the gun jolting towards the children, and in the next, it's just a close-up of Kimar's face saying, "Do not be afraid."
Don't be afraid. If you do what we say, you won't get hurt.
Whew, you had me going there for a second. I thought you'd actually shoot or something. I mean, I'm not worried anymore. See you later. So yeah, this is quality. And the next part I really just absolutely love, because they decide they need to abduct Billy and Betty Foster. It's Voldar's idea. He says they need to take them, otherwise they might inform the authorities. I'm kind of thinking, what authorities? They're out in the middle of nowhere, and even if they did inform the authorities, how could they catch the Martians? And if the children aren't harmed, why would they even need to inform anyone? So this just kind of confuses me, but they take the children. What this movie lacks in quality, it makes up for in national television broadcasts. Because the very next scene is another TV broadcast, I think number 4 of the movie, and this one tells us that Billy and Betty Foster are missing. So I'm not quite sure about the time frame here, if this is a few hours later than the last scene or what, but it appeared to me that Billy and Betty were far from home and in the middle of nowhere pretty much, because Betty said, "Let's go home, let's head home, Billy." My Betty impression is just spot on. But I just don't get the timing, and I guess the parents finally decided to look for them to discover they are missing. So if I were these parents, I would be overjoyed. I'd be like, nice, these kids are gone. But next, we get to go onto the alien spaceship, and I just find it baffling. I want to highlight that Billy and Betty aren't afraid, really at all. They're excited about this new adventure and asking the Martians, "What does this do? What does this do?" And very inquisitive and not fearful, crying, shivering in a corner. So again, the unrealism of this movie is just amazing. So the Martians make way to the North Pole, so they fly their ship there, park it out in the snow, and this is when Billy and Betty decide to escape. They run away in the North Pole, where they will probably freeze to death. So they just really intelligent children. So this is pretty great because the Martians follow their footprints, but they can't figure out where the children are. Next, we get to meet the polar bear, which is obviously not a polar bear. This is just obviously a man in a suit. It just passes after swatting a paw at them while they are in the cave. They come out of the cave because they see something in the distance. They see lights, and it turns out it's a Martian robot coming towards them, but they think it's from Santa, and they see it coming, and then the robot picks them up, and then the Martians jump out. And so the Martians, Voldar tells the robot to crush the children, which then Kimar tells Voldar, "I said it so that it would only follow my command." And the children are put down. They are warned that if this happens again, they
You may not be so lucky next time.
So the Martians are really doing well to not conflict their messages.
Don't be afraid. Don't try to escape again. You may not be so lucky next time.
Billy's insult after getting recaptured by the Martians is just pretty fabulous. It's so insulting.
You won't get away with this, you Martians!
I know for a fact that every time I insult someone, I'll just call them what they are. I'll just say, you human. Reminding people of what species they are just really gets the message through. So the children are back in custody of the Martians after an excellent effort to escape. They just got really far. But Betty's line delivery throughout this, I just want to go back a few clips because I forgot to mention her line delivery throughout this movie is just spot on.
I'm cold and I'm tired. Where is Santa? He's the mean one. The one who doesn't like us. Why did he run away?
So the Martians send this robot in to capture Santa Claus. And Santa Claus just studies it, not afraid at all. He's like, oh, you're a fabulous toy. And this is just the beginning of what Santa Claus is. There's no denying it. He is just quite something. And I'm not blaming the actor. The actor did as best as he could with what he was given. It's the writing all the way on this movie. There's so many fingers I can point, but I only have 2 hands. So next, the Martians come in after they sent their robot in for no reason, and Kimar tells the robot to get him, and the robot isn't listening, so some kind of malfunction. But next, the elves try to stop the Martians and say, hey, you can't be in here, but the Martians pull out the freeze gun. And this moment is fabulous TV.
Listen. Quiet, you.
But
Actors just posing a position for multiple seconds. Santa sees what has happened, and Mrs. Claus comes in, and they hit her with the freeze gun, and Santa just goes, oh dear. And then he's kind of just studying the bodies and studying the frozen bodies, and they're like, it's okay, it'll wear off. What? I would not buy into this like Santa does. He's like, oh, okay, good. I would kind of think, how can you trust these people? They just barged in, hit people with some random gun. How do you know it's going to freeze off? Santa just believes these people. He is the most gullible person to ever exist in this film.
It's harmless. It'll wear off in a short while.
Oh. Oh, why didn't you say so in the first place?
So Santa Claus is taken back to the Martian ship, and Billy and Betty are highly underwhelmed by Santa. He just kind of tries to make jokes to cheer them up instead of trying to come up with a real solution as to how they'll escape. And he doesn't seem to care that these children were kidnapped. He doesn't talk to the Martians about it. He just kind of accepts the fact that, oh, these Martians are kidnapping everybody. So Santa Claus is
an idiot.
Yeah. These jokes he's constantly making, just check a few of these out.
And then suddenly I realized it wasn't a chimney at all. It was the smokestack of the Queen Elizabeth. Well, don't you think that was funny?
Yes, Santa.
What's soft and round, and you put it on a stick, and you toast it in a fire, and it's green?
I don't know, what?
A marshmallow!
So every Martian on the ship is now feeling the Christmas spirit due to the Santa Claus effect. But Voldar hates this, so he takes the children and Santa, gives them a tour of the ship, and he ends up locking them in the airlock. And he makes sure the airlock system is activated, and he starts a countdown. And Santa is just kind of trusting, gullible, yet again. This is nothing new. This will last the rest of the movie. This is just who Santa is. So I hope you like who the jolly old fellow is. But next, Santa and the children finally see that the system was activated, and they crawl through a pipe to escape. And this next bit between Kimar and Voldar, you've just got to see for yourself.
What's going on, Voldar?
Chief, Santa and the children are missing.
Where are they?
Drifting around in space,
Along with the rest of the space junk. Before I'm through with you, Bulldog. You wish you were floating around out there in space.
If this isn't the most amazing bit of television history, I don't know what is. I mean, this is just beautiful, beautiful footage, and I wouldn't trade it for a thing. Voldar is put into custody, although when Droppo went to give him his food, Voldar captured Droppo, tied him up, and escaped. So Voldar is now in a cave with some people who are kind of following him. So the Martians land back on Mars, and now Santa and the children meet Kimar's family. And Santa, during this scene, there's probably many other examples, but I'm just gonna highlight this scene. Santa laughs like a creep. I don't want this jolly old fellow down my chimney. He is just creepy. So, Billy gives a handshake to the Martian son, and they are instant friends. That's just how friendship works. You meet someone, you give him a handshake, and you automatically like each other. Droppo is really happy by all that's happening for some reason, but Droppo, he's a born dancer. I mean, just look at these grooves. He's got some moves. So now Santa starts making toys for the Martians, and he pushes buttons on an automated system that releases the toys. And Santa accepts child labor, and so the children are helping. So they get to take the toys, put them in baskets, while Santa just sits in a chair. So that's a new development. So Droppo is really feeling the Christmas spirit, and he wants to wear Santa's suit, but Santa says, oh, you'll need to get fatter for this. And so next Droppo is taking the Martian food pills and just eating a lot of them. And so then he decides to that's not going to work fast enough, so he stuffs a pillow in his shirt and then puts Santa's outfit on. And earlier Santa said his fingers getting tired from all the work. Screenwriting, what can I say? And so Droppo decides, oh, my finger isn't tired, I can go do the work. And so he goes down, and he's, again, the grooves, he's just really feeling it. And so he goes into Santa's workshop, and he is trying to make toys, but Voldar and his crew are there to sabotage the system, and they decide that they will take Droppo. And so Droppo is kidnapped back to their cave, and so the next day Santa and the children get up to go make toys, and they see that the machines aren't working, as a baseball bat is half a baseball bat and a tennis racket, and a doll has a teddy bear's head on it, so they're confused by this. And then they also find that Droppo is missing. Believing that they have the real Santa captured, Voldar goes to bargain with Kimar. And he says he'll release Santa and not kill him if he's sent back to Earth and if the toy machines are destroyed. And Kimar just says, are you sure you have the real Santa? And he shows Voldar into the workshop where he sees Santa. And he's confused, and they think that Santa escaped from their custody. But it turns out they've got Droppo, who then also escapes. But while Voldar and the other random guy are in custody, they manage to knock Kimar out in a great fight. So they go to invade the workshop, but it turns out Santa and the children are ready for them. So we get this great final battle of kids hurling toys at Voldar. The mighty warrior Voldar falls to 4 children who are shooting bubble launchers, throwing airplanes. After the children and Santa win the battle, Voldar is taken into custody, as well as his goons, and it's a happy ending. And the children and Santa are sent back to Earth, with a fabulous goodbye.
We can get back in time for Christmas Eve.
Yay!
Shall we get going?
Yay!
Goodbye, dear friends.
The Martians have determined that Droppo is their new Santa. And so yeah, that's the movie. And it ends with this great still of Santa's face in space. An hour and 21 minutes of my life. Wasted, gone. I can't get it back. Can you, please? I'm pretty sure the directors of this movie, by the end, most directors are like, we've done great work here, guys. Good job. I feel like we could have even made it longer because we've got that much good quality. With this movie, I'm pretty sure they were like, we've done it. An hour and 21 minutes of movie. Good job, fellas. Now we get to the segment where I will rank the movie on a scale of 1 to 10. This movie is a 2 out of 10. Just that simple. It is. You know what? No, it's not. It's a 1 out of 10. This movie is awful. Thank you so much for watching this review of that movie. Please let me know if you enjoyed it. I've got movie reviews that I'll be releasing monthly. Next up, I'm thinking it'll be the A-Team. So please check out any more content I create, and please let me know if you enjoyed this film. And if you want to see it for yourself and get the joy sucked out of you, then the link is in the description to how you can watch it free on YouTube.